AI Sasquatches. The creative process is 10% creativity and 90% admin. I was like, I don't agree with that.
I'm always preaching to the team, like, if we do all this other stuff right, it creates the room for the creative expression.
There's that element of me that I'm glad I have where even when a job goes sideways and you're like, well, I didn't see that coming. I'm used to it to a degree. It's just like, okay, what are we doing now? How do we adapt? And I have that adaptability. And I feel like I've taught a few of the team members that you can move fast. It's like, what tools do you have in front of you? What are we trying to achieve? Let's work with what we got. AI Sasquatches.
It's a good hook for the start of the episode. I like it. Go on.
Bigfoot. Bigfoot has become real.
Mm-hmm.
The myth's out of the bag, at least in the eyes of AI. So, I'm sure you've seen. Have you seen the Sasquatch? The AI Sasquatch play out?
Like that orangutan thingy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's playing out, and it's crazy to see people's creativity.
Yeah, it's cool. I feel like it's there's some fun videos coming out, people playing with it a lot. It's interesting seeing, like the idea of like a monkey doing a vlog. It's very funny.
It's crazy, like who thought of that? Who thought, Google VO's out, or I just want to play around with it. Oh, I'm gonna take a Sasquatch and I'm gonna say, let's get it to do a vlog and see that it's found like a Red Bull or an energy drink in the wild and play that story out. I don't know. People's imaginations. It's an interesting glimpse into what are people thinking and how are they visualizing that. Yeah,
well, I mean, Google VO has really taken over the internet this week. Everyone's having to play with it. I know for us, there's a lot of people very worried about what that means for their jobs. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's interesting. It's funny you bring that up. I had a conversation with a pretty awesome mentor here in Geelong, runs a pretty big business nationwide, and he's had a creative business, creative process throughout his whole journey. He was actually very early on. He was doing video newsletters that would go out every single week, and this was back in like when EDMs just launched. And like he was doing video vlogs, video updates, like 20, 30 years ago. So 20 years ago.
Interesting.
And he always said that he had this analogy and this statistic that he threw at me in the conversation. I just never heard it. And it was the creative process is 10% creativity and 90% admin. I was like, I don't agree with that. I was like, I will, I'll go into a job. I won't do any, I better make a preface. I do now. I didn't used to when I was doing just the photography stuff. Wouldn't do any pre-production. Just go in, have the phone call with the client, go in, shoot the job, go home, edit. There'd be, a couple thousand photos to edit. I was like, I didn't do any, it's most of my job's creativity. He goes, how much editing do you have to do? I was like, a couple hours. It's like, yeah, because if you did better pre-production, you wouldn't have as much post-production. But really, the creative part is always the same, which is your 10%. And you either do more pre-production to save yourself post-production, or you don't. And I was like, what a light bulb moment.
It is true. I think a lot of your reaction there is probably very similar to a lot of other creatives. Like we see that all the time. Like we talk about how we go about things now to some people, like some creatives, they get very like, oh, it's just too, it's too rigid. Or like it's, I don't like to do things like that. And they want to, be and feel more like artistic about what they're doing, which I think is like, to your point, like, I did the same thing. When you're only doing a few shoots a month, you don't have as many jobs going on, as many recurring clients, and like a lot of other back end stuff that you have to worry about. Yeah, you can just go to a job and go like, cool, I'll rock up. I know I'll be able to make it work. Like, I'll just get it done. You can rely on that a little bit. But you can only do that to a certain extent because it relies so heavily on like your, like how sharp you are in that. Like, if you needed to go to multiple jobs, and job, even just a job every day, as well as manage all the back end work, creates a lot of strain on you if you don't have that admin and the logistics side of things sorted. Like I'm always preaching to the team, like if we do all this other stuff right, it creates the room for the creative expression and for that creativity. I feel like people don't think of it like that. They think if they do the admin stuff, like it takes away and makes them feel less creative and everything like that. But like what makes you feel less creative is when you're under pressure, you're disorganized. Well, if you're disorganized, you don't have things sorted, you're probably, still in that phase of chasing clients kind of things. You're worried about money as well. Pretty hard to be creative when you're under pressure like that.
I think it's a little bit of like earning your stripes to a degree of like, you have to go through that. You either find out yourself, I need to be more organized because you burn out and whatever, or you produce a bad job, or you can't fix it on the revisions because the client needed it by a timeline and you weren't organized enough. So it's like, job's fucked to a degree. But you either learn that yourself, or you have great mentors that teach you better ways of doing things. It was my case. I was a mess back in the day, and I had mentors that forced me into situations. Mentored me into situations where I had to be better and better and better because, at that point in time, we had jobs back to back to back. So it was like, you had to be on, you had to be organized, you had to be in and out, you had to know the process. There was no messing it up. There was room for error, but there wasn't a whole lot of room for error. And I think there's a really important learning in that nothing ever goes right as much as you plan anyway. There's always a scenario that'll come up. And you know me, I'm a freaking stress head the best of times. And I like to plan out my gear visually. Have I got the SD card? Have I got the battery? Have I got the lens? Like I try and plan as much as I can. So we think about all the scenarios, but there's that element of me that I'm glad I have where even when a job goes sideways and you're like, well, I didn't see that coming. I'm used to it to a degree. It's just like, okay, what are we doing now? How do we adapt? And I have that adaptability. And I feel like I've taught a few of the team members that you can move fast. It's like, what tools do you have in front of you? What are we trying to achieve? Let's work with what we got, I think it's an important skill set to learn because jobs always go sideways, not always, but there's always the one thing you go, oh, I didn't realize it's going to have to be this far up at the back of the room. It's like, we've got a telephoto or, we only need to be shooting 1080, but we can shoot 4K and we'll punch in post. There's always ways around things. It's about knowing your gear, knowing your capabilities.
And learning how to manage the client, I think sometimes as well. Sometimes like those sort of things like tend to be the client hasn't shared something with you that really you needed to know. Like if you're further up, if we're talking about an event like you're talking about, and you end up further back in the room than you expected, that's partially because of the information you've been given through the client. So, like,
comes back to
how do you manage
admin,
that,
though.
right? Because
comes back to the admin though. It's like, did you ask the question about room layout? Did you ask all these things?
That's absolutely learning. But I just mean like that I think that's also on that adaptability side. You go to the client, you say, hey, just so you're aware, conditions have changed. This is how we're sort of dealing with it. But it may slightly alter what you were expecting, afterwards kind of thing. I feel like that's the other thing, like as part of that's the admin in a way, but I feel like that's also like a really important part of our job because like creative work is so subjective and like a lot of it is managing like how can you marry up with what the client's wanting and what their expectation is. So, that to get that on the same level is just heaps of communication. So things like that change, you've got to be willing to like have a tough conversation with the client and talk to them about it.
I'm coming back to AI. I think that's where AI is super powerful now, right? is previously it relied so much on the creative to like client come to creative and go, I want this. I want this crazy idea. And you go, okay. And then they go, how much is it going to cost? And you go, X, Y, Z. And they go, hopefully, like they poke and prod and ask questions. Can you do this? Can you whatever? And it was always this big leap of faith from clients to be like, oh, I suppose we're just going to have to figure it out. They've got some good previous videos. You know, none of them are in our industry or none of them are aligned to the exact reference or exact thing we're looking for. Because you never have the perfect reference unless it's like something very specific. But I think that's where AI has come in now to be super powerful is, you know, prompt out GPT, prompt out Claude, prompt out Grok, whatever you're using. Get a rough storyline and a script. It's never perfect. You're always going to have to use your creativity to make it better. Go and utilize those chats again and say, based on this script, create me a visual storyboard, you know. And sure, the images are going to look like crap, but at least you've got some context on shot types that you need. You've got your storyboard. The client can see visually what you're thinking if it's in alignment with, you know, your creative idea. And now that gap's closed so much. They feel so much more comfortable to go, oh, like these are the shot types you're thinking. Oh, no, I was actually thinking something a lot more wide and grand. It's better to know that now after an hour and a half of prompting.
Yeah, well, you can't get back a shot after an event, you know.
And that's where it's going to be so powerful is you can charge more as a creative because you can present an idea way better than you used to be able to. You can feel more comfortable. As well as when you go to production, you don't have to be as stressed. I mean, I used to be that creative. I still am that creative. It's like, know the shots you need to get, but then I would always stress like, I need to get all these other shots. I need to get all the other shots just to make sure what if there was this other variable or other deliverable that I haven't thought about yet. I better go and get the additional shots so I can support that. But yeah, I think if you just plan like that, makes it all easier.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's nothing worse than coming back from a shoot or coming back from something going, damn, that's a shot I wish I had. You know, I didn't plan for that. I agree with you on there. Like, I feel like even asking AI, like, what are all the things that could, you know, this is the client's expectation. This is what the client has said that they're wanting. What are all the things that could go wrong, or how could, like, you know, what are some things that could go wrong that would mean that we wouldn't meet like this expectation? You could kind of pre-plan for some more contingencies, because I think that's always to your point about like adaptability on the job. Great to have. And there will always still be things that go wrong outside of what you prepare with AI. But I do think that's like another aspect of getting a bit of help to sort of go like, oh, wish I had asked that question and didn't think of asking that question to the client earlier. You know, simply just over time you can sort of train something to help you like make sure that you're asking all the right questions and you do discovery a lot better before a job.
It's too much risk if you don't. Like, think about it. Everyone has access to this free tool. The client's going to come to you with an idea, and if they're nifty, they're going to go to ChatGPT first, and they're going to get it to write out a project plan. And I dare say, if you go through GPT to write out the project plan, it'll think of things that you haven't thought about as a creative because it's referencing like production level briefs, right? Because that's all that's out there in bloody blog posts and stuff. So, you know, you're better off going to GPT as well. With your knowledge, you'll see probably what the client's seen because you're going to get roughly a similar sort of kickback and brief from the LLMs. But then you can be ahead of it. So then when they turn around and go, have you thought about shot types and X, Y, Z? If you're normally not the one that think about shot types, you'd be like, yeah. Have you thought about, you know, dynamic locations or whatever it may be? You'd be like, yeah. So you can be ahead of what the client may come to you with if they've, you know, already pre-gone to ChatGPT. So I don't think it's a matter of like, should you do it? Bless you. I don't think it's a matter of like, should you do it? I think it's just a matter of, you know, how soon are you adopting it? Try it with your next client. It's not hard. pump in the idea that they've got, and see what it spits back.
Yeah, I think that's probably, funnily enough, like a lot of people will ask us, like, are we worried about AI, taking over everything and everything like that? We've always said, like, we're not worried, because I think there's always still, there's a whole segment we could probably do around like the need for the creative still, but it doesn't mean we're not using AI.
Can't hide it.
Nah, and there's not. I think it's just probably it's not being used in the way that a lot of people think. A lot of people would think like, oh, we're replacing our editors with an AI thing. It's like, no. Oh, there'll be like an AI. Soon there'll be like some AI videographer or whatever, so you'll be able to replace them. It's like ages off, and probably still not something we're considering. That whole car racing story, which we could probably share in a sec as well. I think we mentioned before, but it's like you said, it's all the admin things, and it's like how can we help our editors be more prepared and more efficient with the use of AI? How can we help our videographers be more efficient and prepared before a job? How can we help our like social media management team be like more across like the the tonality that clients want and all the different rules that they might have around their content? We can just help the team be more efficient, prepared, less room for error by utilizing
us
it.
as leaders too. Like, we're in a very quickly growing business, and our roles and responsibilities are changing very, very fast, right? And it's like sometimes we can't be each other's turning point for things, and like we're at a point where our depth of knowledge on certain areas is limited, and to go and pay for expert advice in those areas to gain more knowledge, it's not viable yet. And it's like GPT, Claude, Grok, whatever it may be, a customized, accountability sort of mentor to a degree. Sure, it's not gospel, but it's someone to conversate with that understands your roles and responsibilities and what you're trying to achieve. You can pitch questions to, it'll give you an answer back and be like, I didn't think of that. And it just expands your mind. So it's also like, it's not just for the team, it's also for us as leaders. So
yeah, I mean, if you're running, you're running any business, whether it's freelance or you've got a team or whatever. I love, in the past, everyone was so worried about investing into certain things for their business because either feel like they've been sort of scammed, or they bought something at the wrong time, or they just sort of get a bit paralyzed around making a decision to invest in certain people. And I think, and we've been using it a bit now because we're obviously investing in a lot of things. We've been using it a lot for like, what are all the questions that we should be asking this person? What is help us understand, how to make a great decision here on who we want to go with. So I think I love that. I love that clients, we've even noticed on some sales calls and stuff like that, people are asking, questions they weren't asking before. And they're great questions. It's good to see people more informed and wanting to ask better questions, because I think it leads people to make faster decisions, as opposed to, in the past, you kind of get off a call, you might feel good about it, but you're still just not super clear. You don't feel very certain. It's like, and then you think of things afterwards that you should have asked on the first call. So I feel like there's the ability to move faster within a business, because you're just more aware of the things you should be investing in and everything like that. I feel like that's the importance of creating a brain for your business, which is a whole other discussion, but we're heavy on that at the moment.
Yeah, I think the AI space is interesting. We had someone in this space filming a podcast recently, and he made an interesting comment about AI is going to get to the point where the phone rings and you hear the human voice and you go, like I'm going to have to deal with a human to get through this problem. Whereas like I think it'll, not for the creative industry, but for like some professional service areas, I think it'll get to a point where you're like, oh, awesome. I've got the AI. I'm going to get the answer quick. Like I'm not going to be on hold for long. I'm not going to have to explain all these. I'm not going to have to explain my whole situation. Like it knows my file. It knows what I need. Nah. Like I think that'll be an interesting space.
I don't know if I fully agree with that. It's a good thing to. It's a very interesting point. But when you get someone cold calls you, and they are just like on a mission because they've just got like they've been told there's like one outcome. The one outcome is get someone to buy, right? Like I feel like that will. Yeah, there may be certain AI things that are there for like some people will prompt their things better to be just help and just serve and stuff like that. Maybe where it gets to, but I feel like particularly short term, maybe still for certain industries, they just won't learn. I feel like the AI will be more persistent and like around like a certain outcome that it's like this is the thing that's been trained to get done. So it's going to really drive towards that. Like their job is really customer support stuff.
I think that's the area
probably,
that reference mainly came from is, you call up, Medicare, or you call up Telstra. You just want your phone plan switched over. You don't want sales agent to try and upsell you. You just want to swap. You just want to swap something.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be an interesting space.
Yeah, that's so true. That will be really cool to see, I reckon.
Yeah.
I mean, I already noticed when I'm searching, like I don't really use Google anymore, which is wild to say, I think. Like
really? What are you using? You're still using GPT? You use GPT straight for everything?
For most stuff, yeah.
That's wild. See, I still use Google.
Really?
Yeah, I still love a good Google search.
I just find that there's so much. So I feel like SEO has kind of ruined Google in a way, because I find that like, and that's a broad way of saying, like, I find that I search something and then I'm just not getting to the answer quick enough that I've gone there for the purpose of finding out. And then I've got to go to a website and I've got to like comb through all these other like stories and promotions and things like that just to get to the point of the thing that I wanted to know about. If I want to like find a website, of course, like I'll go to Google, but like, or if I want to find like, restaurants nearby, but even still, I think that I will shift. I mean, even that I've actually shifted probably more so to like TikTok than Google.
It's interesting because Google being Yahoo, all of them, they're all built on, they had the attention span and they had the real estate for people searching, just searching in general. But I haven't seen it come in yet with GPT, Grok, Claude, whatever you use. There's no advertising yet. There's no, like you're saying before, you go to Google and you get, you've got your first 3 searches, which are Google ads. And then you've got, your top searches with your SEO. It's clearly the companies in the money, like companies with the money to spend money on SEO. And then you've got, page 2 and plus of just like all the other businesses. And then you might have your display ads and all that sort of stuff. But GPT, funnily enough, like no display ads yet. There is no, from my understanding, pay to play or pay to be number one in the search. Yeah, it's I only just thought of that as you've mentioned that. So I don't know if it's one of those things that'll come in over time, probably naturally.
I don't think so. The reason being is that I think that part of its like, I think what it'll more so sell is that like tiered membership, subscription model. Because I think it'll be able to scale faster that way. when you get more things across, like more LLMs across the board, you're going to go to the ones that aren't selling that sort of stuff, and they're like aren't harder. Like if one takes longer for you to get to a thing because of ads, you're immediately going to stop using it, because that, like, the whole point of it is like speed to answer and how quick it is to use. So I feel as though it'll get to the point where it's like, I think it'll get to the point where there'll be cheaper ones, but it'll be slower. Or there'll be certain restrictions and stuff, and you're paying for the amount of searches you want to do and the speed at which you can get those searches done. And probably how much more integrated it'll become into like the rest of people's lives. We look at that at the moment for business, but I think households will there'd be like the Jarvis of
Alexa's going crazy. And Google Home and all that sort of stuff. I think the interesting like thing to look at, and we spoke about this last night at dinner, was, as we move away from the black mirror, right, of the phone, we were historically the Nokia. Now we are, the camera's tilted on the side. We are the portrait. We are the phone. We saw it years ago with the VR headsets, and we're seeing, the Ray-Ban glasses come in now with the camera on them. We're seeing the Apple Vision Pros where you're getting a bit of augmented reality and stuff like that. I think the nature of what creativity will mean for up-and-coming freelancers and businesses trying to play in that space, I think that's going to change so much, because for me, most of my career, like, the creatives that I was making were for marketing purposes. You know how much I love that word. But it was for like marketing purposes, whether it be the business owner trying to do it themselves or another party or whatever it may be. I was either making images for a website, or I was making a hero video for a website. I was making a video for an ad. I was making a video for their socials. But that all revolved around creating content for the places that people would utilize the internet. And I think the way that the internet's going to be used over the next 5 to 10 years is going to vastly change, which will change the nature and how creativity needs to be done. I think we're so hooked on the portrait phone and the slotty sort of feel of rolling through a phone. So I don't think we're going to move away from that really, really fast. But I think augmented reality and that virtual reality space is an interesting area to think about and play around. That 3D landscape, Blender, creating a story that's a bit more dimensional. Like we saw, the other thing that's come out recently is off the back of the Sasquatch Google VO is the 4D capabilities of this new tooling coming out, where you can plug in a 2D shot and basically create a 4D model or a 3D model where you can choose your camera angle. So right now, for you, if I wanted to shift the camera angle over to here and get more of a side profile, you could do it in post because they generate all the frames around it. And I think that's the creative process and capability at that point changes. It's not about how do I get the perfect shots. It comes back to be like, how do I just make sure I get the scene right? Because I can fix the rest. Well,
I mean, I definitely think we'll see that in the real estate space. I think that'll become when people want to look at a house, it's going to be because and you did real estate photography before. The whole game is make rooms look better than they are. You make it look a little bit more spacious. You highlight certain things. You might try to hide certain things that aren't part of what you want to show off. I feel like that it'll be the standard where it's I want to be able to actually the videos and stuff that I want to see. I want to be able to like really go into the house. Might even replace like open homes because people feel like they can actually walk through the house virtually. I know there are like virtual walkthrough ones and stuff like that are already kind of there, but I think we'll see that that'll be the next level of that.
Oh, I think the ripper idea for anyone that's in the space, and if my old bosses are watching, they can take this idea, is the augmented reality, whether it's probably more virtual reality, open home viewing experience. Obviously, we're at a point now where, there's enough data that when you're going onto these realestate.com, they pretty much know who you are to a degree. Whether you're logging in through Google, you're logging in through Facebook, there's enough data there for you to know who you are. So let's say, you've got 10 Autumn Street up for sale. It's a family home. You're the mum looking to go through the home and you just want to check it out. But you don't want to go there. You're going to go through the virtual experience. It knows you're a family. So as you walk through the home, you're greeted by Mitch Falzon doing the virtual open home. But then as you walk through the home, you see a family, living in the living room, playing things, and you can start to feel more about the home because it's not just virtual furniture and whatever. You've actually got a bit of a story playing out, right? So you walk into the kids' bedrooms and stuff like that, and you see, the bedtime story being read, so they can really start to see themselves there, right? But then you get the tradie walk through to the same 10 Autumn Street home that's just got the missus, no kids and a dog. And when he walks into the living room, you've got the boys sitting on the couch watching the footy. So the open home viewing experience is completely personalized to everyone going through the home because it's possible, right? We're seeing it now with Google VO to be able to generate on-demand assets within reason of okay quality is possible. So it's just a technological problem and someone with enough finance, budget and backing to sort of make that happen. And you could, realestate.com is probably going to be straight onto it, but you could change the game of the open home viewing experience. It's not an easy, it's not a hard one to do at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of these sort of things I do think people need to take into consideration. I also think it's important though to say there's a lot of stuff that I do think people, because of all these advancements in all these other things, I do think that there's also still like a heavier lean towards, or a heavier, let's just call it heavier lean for want of a better phrase, but like towards the human experience stuff, we know some photographers that do family portraits and stuff like that. Like someone isn't going to want to, I still believe someone is going to want to pay for a photographer to come in and like document the real things, the real parts of their family, right? Yes, they could generate with AI, but it doesn't, the disconnect there is the memory attached to the photo, which I think creates the whole meaning behind it. There's the whole there's the IKEA effect of like, people do tend to have more attachment to things that they've built and they've made and they've been a part of because there's a memory and significance and effort attached to it. Similarly, in another way with like wanting the human experience, as much as all this like AI stuff is coming in and AR and all these other things to consider, when you look at marketing a service-based business or even a product-based business, I think that there's an element of people they want to feel more trust and connection to the things that they are purchasing. And like, if all you see is like AI images of a product, well, you're not really going to trust that that's exactly how it's going to look in real life. If there's no founder story behind that product, and there's, anyone can generate anything with, the ease to generate a lot of things that we want and need will be a lot easier. So I think the purchases for certain things will become lean more into things that you have a connection to or you believe in and you want to be a part of. So it's like you'd be like seeing a real person building that business, why they're building that business, more of a story. It's like, again, things will have more meaning in that way. And then even for like services, it's like, again, if all you see is like AI images, I mean, we're seeing stupid AI testimonials, which is like the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like, why would you fake a testimonial? It's the most like incredible discrediting thing I think you could do. But yeah, I think there's like I want to see who am I investing in? Who am I actually, getting to my home or bringing into my business? Who am I trusting with, this service, particularly something that's, a meaningful investment.
100%. I mean, it's the most exciting time to be alive. It is the most exciting time to be alive through the lens of, if you are a creative person, right, and you sit there and you think ideas all the time, you're like, oh, I wish I could achieve that, or I wish I could do that. In your mind, you always have these ideas and you always struggle with execution, but you are that creative person, right? No better time to be alive, because the gap in making it possible is so much smaller. But if you are the person that sits on your hands all day and just like skates through life by like just getting by and just meeting the minimum or whatever it may be, no shit, you're scared, because you're going to be the first one that goes. It's just how it is. You need, like you said before, you need to have the ability to make people feel comfortable, put a smile on someone's face, make an impact, create a memory. Every conversation you have, like every interaction you have, make that a memorable one, because, all the other elements, like we're saying before, is the 90%. It's only going to get better and better and better for companies to implement through these technologies. So like for me, things I'm investing in is how I show up. I don't know if I've mentioned on the podcast, but I never used to be able to look at people in the eye. I was a nervous little kid, battled with my own demons, but that was one of the things I had to work on, because it was part of building connection. It's part of making people feel comfortable. Small things about like, how to navigate a conversation, how to talk properly. Sometimes I get way too energetic and I don't talk properly, but it's, all these little things about, they all contribute towards how I make someone feel every time I have an interaction. I think, what you're saying is so important, is spend the time and the effort in creating a memory.
Yeah. Lean into the human element of all this stuff. I think if you're, like you said, if you're worried about your job and what you're doing, I think that there's an element of really looking at like how much value you're adding. I mean that, we look at, this is no dig at like cashiers kind of thing. There's a need for like, most supermarkets have got still got some cashiers with, the self-serve checkout. The person they're going to put on those self-serve things are the ones that were doing a great job, make people feel good, like really good at that thing to help people. So it's sort of like immediately, yes, a lot of people lost it, but it was the people that lost that part of their job were the people that weren't adding any extra value and weren't helping. If you can be replaced by a self-serve, what were you really doing? So I think that it's important to have a really tough look at what you're doing. If all we did was rock up to a job, shoot it, and then like just add captions to it kind of thing, just just pick a random clip and add captions to it. I mean, that's something that AI is probably going to be able to take over a lot. There's other things within that we we now look at, like podcast clips. Obviously, there's a lot more around, just showing up to shoot it and how you pick the clip and how you do the captions and what title you add and all that sort of thing that is important to look at. But if you just slap it all together, we've seen it with a few people, and they have just pivoted to using something like, Opus or one of those sort of tools, which, it's pretty obvious when you do see people using that sort of stuff.
I think it's a dangerous place to be in too, in the fact of if that's not the business you're in, right? Like, to circle back a little bit to the AI conversation is the reason you use the AI yourself in, let's say, HR or in, financial, as a lawyer or whatever it may be, it's because you're the professional and you're the subject matter expert that can cross-check what's being spat back to you. If you're, if you're going down the route of doing all the creative process yourself, like, good on you for like having a crack and doing it. But if you're doing it to the point where you can afford to get another team, but you're still just investing in it because like, I just want to have the control over it. It's like, you're not the subject matter expert. You've got no way to cross-check what's coming back to you. Is it actually right? Is it actually any good? And I think we see that a lot of the time of like people come to us and say like, I do my own socials, do my own video content. It's like, yeah, cool. Like, let's see what you've got. And you've got 100 posts, 150 posts on your account, all with like sub 200 views, 150 views. You're not getting anywhere with it. It's like, yeah, because you've got great quality. You've got like basic editing, but there's this whole other area you're not considering, like clip selection, frameworks, how you write the content, who you're actually talking to, why are you talking to them, what do they want to hear? All these things that Opus is not considering, GPT is not considering, because you're not giving it the context to consider those things. So, yeah, to full circle roundabout, I'm not worried about our space at all, because, you and I are very much solutionist thinkers, but I think the game is just going to get easier for anyone else to get involved if they want to play in the space. But it just means that if you join the race, we're already running and we're only getting faster and faster and faster. But it's also a great place for you. Like, if you want to join the race, there's nothing stopping you from learning. It's just how much time do you want to spend?
It's a good point you bring up too, because I think that there's a lot of people that like I speak to that are like, it's just a little bit like throw the hands in the air and be a little bit like, what's the point? Because this is all just going to like take over and like, this industry's dead because of this industry's dead because of this. And then like, but the people that are actually in it, the people that are in those industries are like, no, we're not going to, like, you're acting like we're just everyone in all these industries is just going to like lie down and go like, and keep doing things the way they're doing it and not innovate. Like, there have been things along the whole way that have come along and like shifted how an industry needs to adapt and change. The ones that don't adapt and change, of course, yeah, they're dead. But like if you like, we're aware of it, we're implementing in all the right ways without like impacting the quality that we're that we value so highly. But opportunities come along the way for that. Things are coming, like, BlackBerry saw what iPhone was doing with touchscreens and refused to admit that people like they didn't see and like refused to admit that like people would want to move away from a keyboard on a thing. Same with Blockbuster could have been Netflix way before Netflix came about. Like, they had the opportunity. They didn't believe in like the how people were like going to consume. They believed that people wanted to actually come in and see their neighbors in the store and that and buy popcorn and that whole part of the experience. They didn't adapt. They weren't trying to like test and do both. I think it's silly to assume that so many people are not haven't taken lessons from those things and aren't like ahead of it. Like, you know, we're using AI in the best way that serves our business to move forward efficiently, and not just like, I think what a lot of people are doing, there's a lot of like smaller people, like smaller businesses that I'm seeing, just drop everything they're doing and like just try to like find this like thing that they're going to be able to really monetize within AI above everything else. And it's like,
I don't think business is going to change. Like, business has always been about work harder, get smarter, not, you know, get smarter, work less. But it's just like it's always been that way, and I don't see it changing in the essence of, you know, you're going to be able to have these, you know, super simple, easy to implement AI systems that you're going to be able to sell for $6,000 to $10,000, and you only need to work 2 hours a day, and that's just the way it is. Sure, we see that at the minute everywhere of a coach that's, you know, teaching someone who's been taught by someone else, you know, coach who taught the coach who taught the coach, and it's, you know, they're selling systems to create these businesses. It's like it's fine now as long as you like are fully content with the fact of that's just for the now. That's not your future, you know, because like whilst that's hot now, it's not going to be hot in 12 months' time. Yeah, there's always ever changing systems, and you need to be able to stay consistent, put in the hours, adapt, and really change with the times.
I mean, we spoke about it last night. There's the book Think and Grow Rich that spoke about, you know, during the gold rush, the people that made the most amount of money were the people that sold pickaxes to miners. You know, it was wasn't people actually digging for gold. You know, they weren't the people that got rich. So, and you see that all the time. Like, you know, Google VOs come out. I'm not seeing video agencies suddenly start offering these like high-end packages using AI that a bunch of people are wanting. If anything, people are saying, like, again, leaning more into the human element. That's everything that we're hearing from businesses. The people that are making the money are the people that are saying that the people that are trying to show other people how to sell Google VO and show them how to use it so that they can sell it. Like and we see that, you know, that is the same thing that happened with the NFT market. You know, it wasn't the people that were like buying NFTs and selling them later that made money. It was the people that either created the NFTs or the people that were, you know, creating NFTs and hyping them up, or the people that were, you know, selling people on how to, you know, find the best NFTs and do that made a bunch of money, and, you know, where there was a bunch of scams and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, you say the same thing for, you know, crypto. There's story after story after story. There's all these sort of things. And I think it's really, it's really important not to get sucked into these things that are like, this is how business is going to change across the board, and like you need to be selling this new business model, and this is like the thing that you should be selling. Because it's like, if there's a low barrier to entry, everyone's low barrier to entry, and you can make lots of money, everyone's doing it, and it's probably not as lucrative as you think it is.
It's that whole thing. We've been saying it the whole time. It's all a tool. It's all a tool and how you use it.
Don't get sucked in.
Don't get sucked in. It's all a tool and how you use it. So, yeah, I'm not worried. I'm not worried for the industry. I'm not worried for any creatives, or I'm not worried for anyone that wants to make a career jump. You know, look at where you are. Look at your goals. Look at what you want to achieve. And if you're that person that you're always going, I wonder what if I could be a creative? You know, we were lucky enough. We've taken on an intern this year that's done a major career jump, completely different industry. That's just had a passion for it and goes, I wonder if I could be an intern and learn the creative process. Like, sure you can. You know, you've got the right attitude. That's the only thing you need. All the other skills can be taught. And I think it's a good lesson for a lot of people that, this AI, all the AI stuff is all a tool. And if you've got the right attitude, you've got the right confidence, you can learn all skill sets and you can go anywhere you want.
Reckon we wrap it up there?
10-4.
Like and subscribe.